This video is sponsored by Crimson Manifesto, Knuckles OX, Zach Haji, Jopi, and Baba Snake. Feeling several sets of eyes upon him, future Gohan scowls, having forgotten what it was like to be surrounded by the other Z fighters. Though, this thought is not tinged with nostalgia, but rather bitterness and pain, as with each face he sees, he is also reminded vividly of how he lost them, with this only further darkening his mood, and confirming his belief that coming back here was a mistake. However, as the Z fighters have just been informed of Cell and his time-stopping powers, it is easy enough for them to mistake the source of future Gohan's grim expression, with them instead looking to him for guidance, both as another future dweller who is even stronger than Trunks, and because they recognize the kanji he wears as that of the Guardian, earning many's instant trust and respect. Unfortunately, this is misplaced, as in a terse tone, the future man informs the heroes that this is not his problem to solve, and that as per his agreement with Trunks, he only came back to warn them about Cell, with even that being a serious breach of cosmic law. He then turns his back on the group, ordering Trunks to follow him, as they've been here too long already. But before he can even take 2 steps, Trunks' refusal roots him to the spot, with the lavender-haired youth subsequently trying to go back on that agreement, by retorting that since they've already broken the rules, they might as well stay and help. However, this just earns him a fierce glare from the elder half Saiyan, as he asks if Trunks really hasn't realized yet that this timeline is doomed. In fact, their so-called help doomed it, since by messing with time, they've made Cell and the android stronger somehow. This must be why time travel is such a taboo among the gods, but in their hubris they ignored the rules, and now must pay the price. He is guardian of his own timelines, Earth has accepted that, and he's sorry for this world. Really, he is. But he's not going to stick around to watch everyone die again, not when he has a duty to the dead of their own timeline to uphold. Still not looking at the others, future Gohan then readies to take flight, back towards the time machine. That is until a new voice speaks up, that of Pigero, as he demands to know when his best friend became such a coward. Well, at first, he had not recognized the man calling himself Deva as Gohan. He could not fail to see that rage bubbling up in him when he spoke just now, and so meets future Gohan's glare as he turns back at last to lock eyes with the roughie, forcing himself not to lash out. The reluctant time traveler instead logically points out the true hopelessness of their situation. They've lost track of Cell, and not only that, they squandered the only advantage they had against him, with that being his belief that he was operating undetected. Were that not bad enough, from what Guro told him on the flight here, they also have no idea where the androids are, much less do they even have a seemingly accurate count of how many there are. And all not to mention that they have even stooped so low as to ally with 2 of them. Feeling somewhat compelled to defend Zeshin despite himself, Pigero refutes that if not for this alliance, they would have never learned about the bomb remote. Though cynically, future Gohan informs the young man that this will fail. As soon as that remote is done and 13's repaired, the androids will kill Bulma and her group, since that is just how androids are. Heartless, and completely devoid of mercy or honor. On these grim words, future Gohan does indeed depart, leaving everyone in stunned silence. That is aside from Pigero, who throws an arm around present Gohan's shoulders, promising his little buddy resolutely that he won't let him turn into that jerk. As for Trunks, he stays where he is, reasserting his desire to help. And when the Guardian of the Future is clearly gone, Trunks sees fit to let his allies know the secret that he capsuled the time machine, and has it on his person currently. So no matter how much of a pessimist future Gohan wants to be, he's stuck here unless he's willing to take it from him, with Vegeta somewhat backhandedly revealing that he is aware of who he is now, as well as praising his son's bravery and loyalty, by stating that with that little showing, he has earned the right to be the prince's training partner in the Room of Spirit and Time. As this had been the plan, no one objects, since the sooner they start using the chamber, the sooner someone else can take their place, thus increasing the odds future Gohan warned were so out of their favor. With this in turn seeing the father and son step inside on one accord in this timeline, giving everyone else a brief glimpse of a small room leading out into what appears to be an entirely white, endless void. As for the remaining Z fighters, they get to work devising a plan. As for all his pessimism, future Gohan had been right in one area. They've lost track of Cell, and the known 4 enemy androids, an issue they sorely need to rectify if they wish to stand any chance. To this end, they decide to split back into 2-man search parties, while Chaozu and Kame use their telepathy and planetary surveillance powers respectively to coordinate the search. Surprisingly, Piccolo also elects to stay on the lookout, as he wishes to discuss the idea of reuniting with his other half, while Guro makes the salient, if cowardly, point that he should stay behind too, since if time stops again, he will be able to immediately relay that to Chaozu, who can in turn inform the others. And so it is decided that the search teams will be Goku and Birder, Tien and Zarbon, and Gohan and Pigero, with them all wishing each other luck before flying off in different directions. Meanwhile, over at Jiro's lab, Bulma and her team are hard at work, constructing the remotes while Zeshin stands apart from them, his focus being on 13's repairs. Having salvaged the spare parts the doctor had left lying around before his death, now he just needs to reassemble them and attach his friend's head. But due to his stubborn refusal to accept help, after where that got him last time, this process is a slow one, with 13 getting rather frustrated, since in terms of their respective tasks, Zeshin is far behind the others, with him demanding to know why in tarnation his partner is being so bullheaded about this. Seeing that this stubbornness is negatively impacting someone else he cares about, Zeshin at last relents, somewhat awkwardly requesting Bulma help him, since with the remote being in the assembly stage now, Krillin and Yamcha are capable of doing that without supervision. Nodding her agreement, the blue-haired scientist makes her way over to Zeshin and 13, and spotting an odd expression on her face, the space orphan suspiciously questions what she's thinking. In a slightly pensive tone, Bulma explains that she was just thinking about the androids, and how they're not at all what Trunks had said. Maybe it's the fact that she's a mom now, and that's changed her perspective. But when she looks at Zeshin, she doesn't see a dangerous killbot. She sees the same hurt child in need of help she did when they first met. Kinda like how Pigero was when she first met him. Scowling a little at this comparison, Zeshin endeavors to change the subject, instead chastising the woman to put out the cigarette she had been smoking as she worked, calling it a filthy habit that will shorten her lifespan. Though this just makes Bulma laugh slightly, as she replies that the black-haired boy is always looking out for people in his own way, isn't he? That's another thing he and his rival have in common. All the same, she does acquiesce to Zeshin's request, stubbing out her smoke on the workbench, and putting both hands to work assembling 13's new body, and affixing his head to it, with the job going much faster now that they have the world's smartest human on side. However, this intellect is not only good for bodybuilding, as by working alongside Zeshin, she is able to pick up on some things even he himself had not known, like the fact that he appears to possess minor technopathic abilities, meaning he can control machines, making them function better, or even slightly outside their normal parameters for him. A little surprised by this revelation, Zeshin admits that he just thought he was good with machines, though it would explain why Pigero's Thundershock attacks are so effective with his cybernetics, with Bulma expressing a desire to study it more closely, since if she could replicate these abilities, it would make her even better at her job. And that's saying a lot, as she's already top of her field. Unfortunately, this causes Zeshin to fall into a melancholic silence, as the prospect of being a lab specimen again fills him with horror, something Bulma picks up on a moment later, as she profusely apologizes, stating that she would never force him into it if he didn't want to. But flatly, Zeshin replies that if she can fix his friend and get his bomb out, he'll do whatever she wants, causing Bulma to grin that this first job's more or less done, as with the final twist of 13's head, she locks it into his neck, before ordering the silver-haired android to take his new body out for a test drive. As 13 does this, letting out an exhilarated "Sam Hill," in shock at how responsive this new form is, while somehow still having as much power as his original body, if not more. So Bulma sets to work on Zeshin, as he is an augmented human, or alien, rather than a pure machine like 13. The removal of his bomb is more akin to surgery than engineering, with Bulma more than once offering him anesthetic, though each time he refuses, having endured worse under Gero. But more than that, he wants his mind clear both to help guide Bulma to where he can feel the bomb thanks to his technopathy, and though he does not say it, to ensure that she will simply not renege on her end of the bargain and blow him up now that the remote is almost complete. However, to Zeshin's genuine surprise, Bulma proves herself trustworthy, getting the bomb out with minimal trauma, while Yamcha even gives him a bit of a senzu bean to heal up his incision without stitches. Barely able to believe what has happened, Zeshin gingerly runs a finger along the point where the explosive had been mere moments ago, finding it to be completely undamaged. And so in spite of every instinct he had from his years of the run, and later torture at the hands of the doctor, he feels his guard lowering ever so slightly as he thanks the Z fighters for their help. Back with the search parties, their hunt has up until now been unsuccessful, as knowing he's been rumbled, Cell has intentionally been keeping his power suppressed so the heroes cannot track him that way. However, one thing he cannot hide is the path of devastation that is left in his wake, with Tien and Zarbon eventually coming across another town just like the one Guldo described, in which empty clothes litter the streets, as the sole indication that their wearers even existed in the first place. Wrinkling his nose at this heinous act of barbarity towards fashion, Zarbon quickly descends to get a closer look, while Tien remains high in the air to scan the surrounding area with his enhanced vision. This proves to be their team's saving grace, as from this angle, Tien quickly spots Cell gorging himself on another screaming civilian, and so alerts Zarbon, while also telepathically contacting Chaozu and asking him to tell the others. Unfortunately, this also alerts them to a very serious problem, as at that very moment, Pigero and Gohan had just located 17 and 18 on the very same island that Tien, Zarbon, and Cell are on now, meaning the monstrous bio-android is closer to his core than perhaps even he knows. Gritting his teeth, the Triclops states there's nothing for it then. They'll have to make their stand against Cell here and now, since they can't afford to run the risk of him absorbing the others and becoming even stronger. To this end, he also instructs the boys to either lead away or take out the sibling androids, since at least with them gone, it will be one less thing to worry about. Recognizing the significance of this task, neither Gohan nor Pigero balk, instead flying low and attempting a joint sneak attack, which maybe, just maybe, might be enough to finish off 17 and 18 before they can do something to alert Cell to their presence. Meanwhile, Tien and Zarbon have done likewise, though instead of being stealthy, they attempt to make themselves as noticeable and threatening as possible in order to draw Cell's attention away from where the other androids are, with Tien using his 4 witches technique to grow 2 additional arms, while Zarbon goes into his monster form both as an intimidation tactic and for the accompanying power boost. However, even combined, it is plain to see this pair will not be enough, as when Cell spots them and begins powering up, his strength immediately dwarfs theirs, and a horrifying testament to just how many instances he has consumed in its ruthless quest for power. Nonetheless, the pair of warriors take heart in the knowledge that they are not alone, as by now, Kami and Chaozu will have told the others, who will be inbound as they speak. As if to prove this right, Yamcha instant transmissions in a moment later with Krillin, Zeshin, and 13, while Goku and Berta streak across the skyline before coming to a stop at Tien's other side, as the Snake Man triumphantly cheers that he's still the fastest in the universe. Forming up, the Z Fighters, Frieza Force Remnants, and allied androids then throw themselves at Cell, with Goku leading the charge, as he declares that he will not let Cell destroy another timeline, thus goading him to stop at all these underhanded tactics, and simply attempt to fulfill his purpose here and now. Unfortunately, this is easier said than done, as even combined, the best they can achieve at this point is a stalemate, with Cell reveling in this chance to test out his new power, though still bearing an inherent refusal to stop his efforts until achieving perfection. As a result, the big bad boss does not flee, though this is not to say he fights fair either, making use of several techniques to try and split the heroes up, since he knows that a divide and conquer strategy will invariably favor him, and that with each kill he makes among this group, he will grow exponentially. Meanwhile, over with Pigero and Gohan, having failed to make their sneak attack a decisive one, they are now engaged in a brutal tag team fight against the androids, thanks to activating Kaioken and Super Saiyan respectively. They possess enough power to at least fight comparably with the androids in terms of strength, though it seems it is not power, but teamwork which will decide who comes out the victor here, with 17 and 18 pushing the boys to their very limits, as while they are brothers forged in battle, the cyborg siblings were quite literally built to be an unstoppable pair, with their synchronicity being off the charts as a joint force. Nonetheless, the two young men do not give up, readying a best bros Masenko, their objective still being a quick victory. However, it seems the androids want nothing of the sort. In fact, they wish to play with their food for a bit, with them demonstrating a combo move of their own that Pigero recognizes as the deadly axle dance they used against him and Zeshin. Knowing they will not have time to finish charging up their attack, Pigero hastily changes tack, canceling his own Masenko, and attempted to shield Gohan once again, though it is already too late, as the sinister siblings close in on the pair and begin ruthlessly kicking them around the battlefield and into the dirt. Then when they are done, they lay down a hail of ki blasts, which creates a horrifying dome of light visible from the other side of the island. Spotting this, several of the warriors holding Cell at bay cannot help but gulp, as it seems the jig is up, with Yamcha in particular apologetically telling Zeshin that it seems it's time to put the remote in use. Though urgently, the young android implores the Desert Bandit to give him one chance to reason with his siblings, as he truly believes they can be saved. This act of vulnerability from the usually tact-turned Zeshin gives the heroes pause, as it is a testament to how much this means to him, with Krillin being the first to speak, as he agrees that it's definitely worth a shot, a faint blush to his cheeks. This is good enough for Goku, who trusts his best bud's judgment, and if Goku agrees, then the group agrees, with Tien tersely telling Zeshin that he has 5 minutes. Then if they're not back here, or rather, not gone from here, he's pressing the button, as he still believes the risk is too high. Nodding gratefully, Zeshin then takes off, leaving his allies to continue their fight, as he makes his way towards the glowing dome of ki. Though they cannot sense energy, the twin androids cannot help but spot their fellow as he's making a beeline towards them, with 17 chuckling it looks like old 22's back for another beating. Though firmly, Zeshin asserts that he's come to save their lives, since right now, there's a monster named Cell after them, and if they don't band together, they'll all be killed. Still smirking, 17 coos that this is precious. 22 still thinks they're a family and wants to save them, but newsflash, they ain't brothers. He then punctuates this statement with a punch to the long-haired android's gut, with this barely doing anything, as there is still a power gap between them as individuals. However, with 18 there, this doesn't matter, as she teases that was cruel. If her brother's gonna destroy this poor idiot, he should at least have the decency to kill him so he doesn't have to suffer. She then adopts a long-suffering sigh as she levels a ki orb at Zeshin's head, ready to work together and clean up after her brother like usual. That is until a blast from below strikes her wrist. Looking down, she sees Pigero flying up at her, back in a strenuous state of Kaioken, as he delivers a swift kick to her stomach, while a moment later, Super Saiyan Gohan launches a surprise Masenko into 17's back, burning a hole in his outer shirt. In unison, the twins ask how this is possible, though right now, after having used large portions to save one another, neither Pigero nor Gohan can spare the energy for speaking, as they both know they don't have enough stamina to maintain their forms for long, meaning it's now or never. However, as they come in for another attack, the pair run into an impediment they had not expected, as Zeshin intercepts them, driving a knee into Gohan's stomach, which makes Pigero roar in fury, and punch his rival in the face, declaring that he can't believe future Gohan was right about him. Though this may not be entirely true, as when the long-haired android is sent spiraling back towards 17 and 18, he promptly stops 17 from firing on Pigero, crying in a tone that one would use with a disobedient child, that they need to stop fighting right now, reiterating that unless they band together, they are all dead. Unfortunately, this plea falls on deaf ears, fighters, as neither side is willing to stop, with Zeshin finding himself fighting against everyone in a clash, where the line between friend and foe is blurred to the extreme, as Gohan and Pigero are now fighting desperately to ensure a dismal future does not come to pass, while 17 and 18 fight to ensure no one else tarnishes their freedom. Meanwhile, up on the lookout, Kami and Piccolo's debate remains in full swing, with the warrior Namekian arguing in full favor of the fusion, as with allies on Namek, there is nothing to be lost, while Kami expresses skepticism in Piccolo's reformation, suggesting it is more so Pigero and son Gohan's innocence softening him slightly, rather than a true redemption, a claim Piccolo himself cannot entirely rule out, as both boys have undeniably changed his life in a way he never could have on his own. However, before a consensus can be reached, the world freezes, or at least it does for Guldo, who had been sitting to the side. At once, the pudgy alien's blood runs cold again. His 4 eyes bulge as he knows exactly what this is. Cell has reactivated his time freeze, something he had not done for the entire fight up until now, meaning that if he's suddenly resorting to that tactic, something has changed. At first, Guldo fears the worst, that the bio-android intends to kill one or more of the heroes while they're frozen. Though as the seconds tick by, and no one's power level vanishes, he is forced to reassess, and conclude that if Cell isn't using this advantage to attack, then he must be running. No sooner does he reach that conclusion, than the time stop ends, with the green alien hastily yelling at the two Namekians to shut up and decide already, as he relays what's happened. Recognizing that the time for theoretical debate is over, Kami reluctantly concedes to Piccolo's plan, but before he vanishes forever and becomes one with him again, he must render one last service as guardian, apologizing to Piccolo for his stubbornness, and broadcasting the news of Cell's disappearance to all the fighters down on the surface. Unfortunately for Pigero, Gohan, and the androids, this is too little too late, as Cell has suddenly appeared in their midst, a sinister sneer on his beak-like lips, as he declares that he wins. This at last achieves Zeshin's goal of unity, with the 5 fighters forming up, though what good it will do them is questionable, as the Bugman takes a deep breath and prepares to stop time again. Desperately and selfishly, 17 throws up a barrier around himself and 18, hoping this will shield them at least. However, before it is even fully formed, it shatters, as Cell materializes in front of them again, his barbed tail having evidently shattered the orb before beginning to expand into a gaping hole that threatens to swallow both twins in one gulp. Though time is not stopped, the twin androids find themselves frozen, as their terror paralyzes them, unable to do anything to save themselves. That is, until a sudden sharp pain brings 17 and 18 back to their senses, and as they look to the source, they see Zeshin having lunged at them before the second time stop, allowing him to shove them out of the way, so that now it is him and him alone who stares down the imposing maw of Cell. But this is where we'll be leaving this story off for right now.